Good day, class. I am Dr. Maria Trisha Alukban, or you may call me Doc Trish, and I will be your professor for this course, the Veterinary, Aquatic, and Wildlife Medicine. For this episode, I will be discussing the course syllabus, the the for the next 18 weeks. Okay, and for our first week, we will be covering the PVMGOs, the quality policy, the course outline, our grading system, and classroom policies. By the way, to facilitate your learning process, here are the resources that you have to that you need to have on hand. Avian Medicine by Tully. You also need the Merck Veterinary Manual, the U.S. Department of Interior and U.S. Geological Survey for Field Manual of Wildlife Diseases, and genital structure and sex identification of crocodiles. I will find a way on how you will be able to access the resources, okay, the following resources. For on week 2 and 3, our lecture will cover the overview of anatomy and physiology of fish. Wildlife medicine will cover fish, birds, and reptiles. For this lecture, we will be discussing terms and its definitions and its significance in the veterinary wildlife course. The laboratory session will include the discussion on the general habitat and management of wildlife animals, because you know veterinary medicine consists of a big scope. Yes, it will not only include the common animals that you see on a daily basis, but it will also include reptiles. You have fish and other wildlife animals. Okay? For weeks 4 and 5, the lecture will cover aquatic pharmacology and the therapeutics. We will be discussing a lot of definitions of terms, the differential diagnosis, and prevention and treatment of diseases involving wildlife animals. For the laboratory, we will discuss the anatomy of fish and the physiology of fish. For you to be able to diagnose a disease, you need to have a good grasp of its physiology. Okay. And for the laboratory exercise would include diseases of fish. You will have to memorize the common diseases of fish. For weeks 6 and 7, the lecture will cover an overview of anatomy and physiology of reptiles. Anatomy, its physiology, and for the midterm examination, we will need to wait for the announcement of our university. Okay, before we have the midterm exam, we will have a laboratory exercise on the habitat of reptiles and how they are properly managed. For weeks 8, 9, and 10, we will be discussing the common diseases and the common therapeutics in reptiles. The laboratory session will include prevention and treatment of reptile diseases. Weeks 11 and 12 and 13 will involve an overview of anatomy and physiology of avian species, how birds are properly managed, and their husbandry practices. So class, we are now discussing the second page of our course syllabus. For as you can notice it, I started discussing with you the core syllabus on dealing with the fish, and then nag-transition tayo into the reptiles, and now the avian medicine. Okay. For week 14, the lecture will cover bacterial diseases on avian. We have common diseases such as the avian cholera, the avian tuberculosis, salmonellosis, chlamydiosis, mycoplasmosis, and other miscellaneous bacterial diseases. For this lecture, we will be including a lot of pictures for you to be able to be familiarized with the with the different diseases. I understand that this course is a great challenge among the veterinarians and the students because we are not hindi naman tayo ganun ka-familiar sa mga wildlife animals, di ba? And for week 15, we will also be discussing the fungal diseases of wildlife animals such as aspergillosis, candidiasis, and other miscellaneous fungal diseases. The laboratory exercise will include, I also included in this course the euthanasia, how to properly perform euthanasia among wildlife animals. For week 16, by the way, we have guidelines for proper care and use of wildlife in field research. We will be discussing that. For week 16, the lecture will include viral diseases, the common viral diseases such as the duck plague, we have IBD of cranes, we have herpes virus of birds, we have avian pox, eastern equine encephalomyelitis, avian influenza, and the woodcock reovirus. For the laboratory exercise, I will be requiring everyone to make a diagram of the following common diseases that we have discussed. And in this wise, we will be able to have a good grasp of the different common diseases that will facilitate your differential diagnosis in the future. Okay? For week 17, we will be dealing with parasitic diseases such as hemoporidiosis, we have trichomoniasis, intestinal coccidiosis, renal coccidiosis, sarcocystis, tracheal worms, gizzard worms among geese and swans, and other miscellaneous parasitic diseases. And finally, for week 18, it is going to be an open forum. Your questions, suggestions, and can be directed to me as your professor before we conduct the final examination. By the end of this course, I am expecting that my students will be able to identify and diagnose wildlife diseases and abnormalities, and how to treat and manage these animals, the wildlife. We also need to my students are also expected to be able to formulate plans and implement programs for diagnosis, treatment, prevention, and control, and eventually hopefully to eradicate these common diseases, and elucidate the normal processes involved in wildlife medicine. I understand that not everyone has a stable internet connection. This is the reason why I created this channel for educational purposes, so that you will be able to save and download the videos and to follow, to facilitate your learning process. I want you to comment your first name and your section, for each video, that will serve as your attendance. Like and subscribe to this channel so that you will know whenever I upload videos. Again, this is Dr. Tricia Lukban, and I will be your professor for veterinary, aquatic, wildlife, and avian medicine. Thank you.